So this morning we have Jean-Marc Chomaz, who is a professor at the École Polytechnique and who is a world expert in hydrodynamic instabilities. And I was quite afraid of him being in the audience yesterday because I spoke about this subject. He was very kind to me, so now I'll be kind to him as the chair. In recent years, I don't know if you know, he's been working a significant amount of time in art directly. Welcome. Bienvenue.
Thank you. So it's a pleasure to be here and to be invited to this session that was already wonderful yesterday. So I'm looking forward for today. And it's also very nice to be back at the Newton Institute with a different subject. And the subject in art and science, in fact, I started that in 1990. When with Patrick Huer, I started a new lab at École Polytechnique. And when you start a new lab, you may define what is a lab. And the basic idea was for me that the lab should be part of the city of the Agora, so it should be an open to the public before we start even thinking of a scientific question. And the whole point to have artists in the lab is to start to be connected to the questioning of the stream that will animate the society even before we start looking at a scientific or formulate a scientific question. So and this is because I was coming from the climate. I did my PhD thesis with Yves, but also with Claude Badevant, and then I was at the Met Office. And I thought that for all this idea of climate change, what is missing is a shared project. And science cannot just say, okay, maybe it may bring information, it may bring data to the observation to the subject, but we have to define together a project for the society, and that the way we look at the connection with what is outside, and that science alone cannot do that, and he is not entitled to do that, and he has to share with other stream. So of course humanities, that is our science, but also all other will in the society. So this is really the starting point, and the first, so to start the talk now, I will start with Etienne Jules Marais, that has been for very, very long in my pantheon, my model. And Etienne Jules Marais is a physiologist. He was first interested in measuring the signal from the body, and then he moved to locomotion. And he did a very controversial publication in '72, I think, where he claimed that a horse, when he was galloping, at the extension phase, got all the time a leg on the floor. And this triggered like an international questioning on this locomotion. And Mr. Stanford, I forgot his first name now, from that we all know because he has been governor of California and he founded the Stanford University. He was a horse raiser, and he put a price on the fact that this may be proven scientifically that the horse in the extension phase still has one of the leg on the floor. And this has been solved by an English photographer, so Muirbridge. I'm a disaster to pronounce name, but so Edgar Muirbridge that designed a 24 set of photographs along the path of the horse. It took him something like 6 years to succeed to take all the photographs, and he succeeded to have 12 images of the whole time sequence of the horses running, and showing that indeed Marais was right. In the contraction phase, of course, the horse has all his leg behind him and is not touching the floor, but in the extension phase, he's touching the floor. So he was right. So and this was the start of the movie, the cinema. And Marais, at the same time, developed many ways of getting like a time sequence on the photograph. So he did that on the same photograph. For that, you need a black background. You cannot do it for real. I mean, outside. And then he developed a fast photography. So this is his original movie from 80 something in the past. So he moved from this questioning of the body flow, I mean the flow inside the body, to the locomotion. To the locomotion, he went to the flight of the insect. And then, of course, this was the time of the flight of the more heavier than the air, and so the airplane. And then he started to try to understand the flight of an airplane, and he built the very first wind tunnel. So this is an image of the second wind tunnel he did. So he did that before the turn of the century, so something like 5 years before the Brother Wright in the state. And then he went to the state to help the Brother Wright to design the wind tunnel. And his first wind tunnel is like that. And this is very famous because there is 56, I think, remaining original images from that. And he was burning, so he was sucking the flow. There is, if you look on the web, there is very nice picture of a reconstruction of the second machine. And he was burning cotton, amadou in French, and he was using a flash, a very intense magnesium flash to freeze the image, to have a very sharp image. And when you read the original paper of Marais, this is communication to the French Academy. This is really poetry, because it's even it's a little like a Victor Hugo expression with the motion and the vortices, and the vortices seems to have some will in their motion, and they are captured by the very intense flash in the intention of a motion. So it's very surprising to read like a very official text that is poetry, and this that has not been written either by Keith or by myself in science for that. So, and why I'm starting with that is that now Marais is recognized in the Booth field. This is more often now exhibited in art museum than in science museum. And of course, when you look at this, the way it's constructing, and we are doing all the time that, you see that those images are very aesthetic in the sense that they are emotional, they carry some emotion, and you realize that even when we do a scientific image, so this is not a horse galloping, this is a horse just in another pace, then you see that those images, they bring a particular point of view, a particular imagination into the foreground. So the fact that maybe as scientists, we use time and space in a very symmetrical way that is not the traditional human experience. So they carry like an emotion for different reasons, because it's in the imagination of science, the way we look at the world that is very specific, changing scale, collapsing time and space in a way, or looking at time and space in a very symmetric way. But also, for example, here you make visible what is invisible, so the motion of the air that should be invisible, and for doing that you have to manipulate the real, make the real very maybe abstract, and also that is bringing you in another state of observation, but also another state of connection with the real. And this is decided that all those scientific images, they are at the same time making the proof. They have been designed to make the proof. So they have been designed to convey a message, but also they have been designed because you are receiving that and you are moved by the emotion. So each GFM paper where there is not moved with the emotion in the images, then maybe the referee will not accept that. So it's just to be realistic in the way we are doing science as human. So the aesthetic is much more involved into what we are doing than just science is producing pretty picture. There is very good reason why science is producing aesthetic picture, is because they convey and they take you in another state of looking at the reality, like this streaming or streaming flow with the stream made visible by a very, very tricky way of doing the smoke generation. So the first idea of art and science when I start is At the same time, I say science should be in the middle of the agora, I mean in the society. The first claim I want to make is that science is first an imagination. All the image we have seen, they are making a proof, but first they are taking you into a particular state of observation. So science is first like an imagination, so it's a state of creation, and you may try to do installation that will not do public outreach, that will propose a space to the public, for the public to explore. So this is what to me will be all this art and science installation. They propose a journey or an experience to the public. So the first, I will not start from the beginning in what I've been doing in art and science. I will start with the group Labo Factory. We start in 2003. The idea was very simple, is that the artists at the time have not yet tried to take the word laboratory. They did that a little later, but we have decided to take the word the factory in reference to Andy Warhol, but to have the factory inside the lab, meaning that you have like a big mess inside the lab, so something very energetic inside the lab. So this was this idea of producing, opening and constructing proposal, aesthetic proposal for the public. So maybe the first one, if I want to show you one, first one we did was for 2005 year of physics, because I was able to get funding for this art and science. And the first proposal is this one, starting, you will see with a proposal, I met Laurent Cars, that is a designer. His first question to me was, I want to sculpture vapor. And I say, I cannot sculpture vapor, but I can sculpture movement. But I'm afraid I'm just able to do rings or tubes. I will give you a little the starting point of all the installation to see also a little bit of the process. Maybe we should dim the light a little more. If it's possible to dim the light a little more. Maybe it's okay, I don't know. And maybe the sound a little higher, but this is the composer. He may play live the instrument. You will see when you observe what he's doing. We have built three ways of playing of this installation. So it's a space for the Nuit Blanche. People cannot work inside because there is many security regulation. But if not in all the other presentation of this piece, public may go inside. And so you see that this is a set of 12 drums. The percussion inside the drum is producing a vortex, but we affect artificially, we spatialize another sound to give a different voice to the vortex. And when you observe, you have interference between the sound and what you observe, so you get the feeling that each of these vortexes are individual. They behave differently. At a point such that we even flip two of this device, because we say, okay, one is not operating properly, but it was just the connection with the sound. And to produce that, first, so you see it's a matrix. So the first idea of the composer was, okay, it's just Ritma. So he wrote a software to be able to design the Ritma of this 12 machine. But when we were putting the installation together, this was music, but this was not constructing the full space we imagine it should. So the next thing we did, the designer and myself, we said, okay, no, but this is a matrix, so we may print in space graphic sequences. So we design graphic sequences, for example, when we shoot all the lines together, so this is rhythmic, and sometimes it's graphic sequences. So we put that as a modality, so when he will hit a key on the computer, he will change either the rhythm, like electronic music, you may enrich or simplified the composition with the same bass line, and then you may move to another bass line. So this is one modality that is musical. Another one is graphical. In a way, you may launch, synchronize with all the rhythmic graphic sequence. And the third modality, because the two together was also not sufficient with what the imagination of the piece or the freedom of the piece we want to give to the piece. And the final one was to do this analog mapping of the piece, and for him to play live a musical composition. So when he's playing the piece, he will use the three modality: the rhythmic, enrich, disenrich, change the rhythmic, graphic sequences, and also some narrative he will add, just because he's improvising a little, like when you play music, you will improvise for that. So you see that this is directly, and for this piece, for example, I did not put any explanation except the reference to Lord Kelvin, and decided that this may be a representation, or even this may be the ether, and in the front of this installation. So the second proposal is also for Nuit Blanche. Funding is very difficult for for art and science, so it takes some time. So Nuit Blanche, this is a different proposal. I made the proposal to say, okay, let's write a music where we use sound that we cannot hear or feel. So you all know that we hear the sound till maybe 40 hertz. We can feel the sound with the pressure wave in your body till maybe 10 hertz, and below 10 hertz there is no way to have any experience of a sound wave. So the idea here is to emit the sound at the surface, the very low frequency, to emit the sound at the surface of a shallow water. So there is three long basin, 3 meters long, with 1.5 centimeters layer of liquid, and we emit at the surface of this tank wave. And again, it's electronic music, so the electronic music contain all the frequencies, except that the very high frequency they go on a loudspeaker, the very low on the woofer, and the very, very low they go on the surface of the water. And it's in Saint-Pierre-de-Montmartre, the most historical church in Paris, maybe the most ancient one. And you have these 3 tanks, and it projects either on screen or directly on the church. In some places, here it projects on the church. And the idea here is that the physics of the wave when the layer is shallow is exactly the physics of sound wave. They are non-dispersive, so they will behave the same way, in fact. So if you pile up, if you put many sound in the church, then you will have all the reverberation, so it will get disorganized with all the reflection, and it's the same with this installation. So it has the same physics. So it's I will just put it back to say a little more on that. And here the projection is just an optical projection, so there is just a little light, a very tiny light, exactly the same thing you use for the magical mirror, a very small light that will go through the layer and will produce all this pattern. And if the waves are very intense, then you have all the caustics and you disorganize the flow. And if you put lots of 2D sound on the 2D layer, it will also disorganize with all the reflection. So all the very fine structure you observe on the screen have not been put by us. It has been given because we use the same physics. So all that are sound wave. And the TV did an interview at the exit of the exhibit. And in the interview, all the people with no explanation, they got exactly this feeling. For them, everything, the light, the wave on the surface of the water, the sound, all that was just sound. So in a way, you don't have to explain. People will, you may trust the public. The public will have, he has to build an intimacy with the installation, and it will kind of understand, not with maybe the rational part of the brain. He will perfectly understand and experience more than understand this installation. So if you look when there is disorganization on some of the wave, this is all the very fine structure. This is just the behavior of the wave itself. And I forgot to say that for the first with the ring, in one night, from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., Nuit Blanche is like that, we got 3,500 people visiting the installation. So even at 3 in the morning, we got 300 people waiting, and the other people not willing to leave because it was 3 in the morning and they prefer just to stay in the installation. And this one we got close to 2,000 in one night. So it's really kind of a very, it was not the time of the social network. So in fact, the news that this installation was interesting spread between people. To get so many people is very rare, even for Nuit Blanche, that you get so many people for an installation that is not the one supported by Mairie de Paris, very strong. So the next proposal, After this one was by the designer. He said, oh, why not making more larger wave and make this wave, so to make like a choreography of just an interface. So to have in space just an interface moving and to control this interface motion. And this will be a choreography like a dancer. So this is what we put. So we have, as you know, we are all experimentalists or physicists, so we have many tricks. So one trick we propose is that we put the light below such it was in total reflection, except at the meniscus. So this idea to have done visually just two bright light that will stretch the interface. And then, by chance, the first time we have shown this machine, the people with a big laser took the water supply before us. So we got hot water to put in the tank. So we say, okay, the hot is just warm, let's put that. But this was a chance because this is making mist on the window, and this is like a fading background, a fading scene on the window. So we have all the memory of all the previous wave that will imprint the mist on the window. So after, for this second presentation, we put on purpose heaters in the tank to produce that. And the next one you will see we put mist generator. And this proposal was to make to work on the plasticity in a way of this interface. So to make all these motions so smooth that the public will even not know exactly what was the materiality. Of course, not of course, but in the design we make everything symmetrical. You don't see the wave maker, so there is a wave maker at both ends to produce the wave. And we propose like a choreography like that. So this has been out in the street 1 week. It was in front of the Cutlug art fair. So this is a part of the FIAC in Paris. So it was at the entrance. So Cutlug at 50,000 visitors. So more than 50,000 enter, and it was in the street working all day and night with many people around. So the impact was maybe about 100 minimum is about 100,000 people looking at this very strange at this proposal that was like wave motion, but also with all these ideas behind. So again, here we want to just propose a space for the public to put his own imagination, to explore by himself. Again, no demonstration, no statement, just try to reopen as much as we can this installation. So after that, so this is Gaëtan Lérisson. He got his PhD in science with me, but he has been the co-author of 4 pieces in art in his PhD. And here we were in the lab in front of Christophe's office, trying to tune the piece. And once we were doing that, at some point we say, okay, no, this is not. Or the piece told us that I'm not a dancer. I'm just a drum. This is a cavity. It will resonate. It has its own resonances. So of course the mode 2, the mode 3, and the mode 4, for example. So it may play notes, and of course the note it is able to play. They are about the hertz. So one is 1.31 hertz, the other one is 1.71 hertz. So it's not a dancer, it's a drum. But it's a drum, I call that a soft and silent drum, because it's soft because just the gravity is the restoring force. So the surface at this scale is not stretched, but anything else than the gravity. And is silent. It's just because we cannot hear the sound this machine is making. And so then, just realizing that, I wrote right away in the evening, in the night, my proposal for the next installation with 3 machines. So each machine being a drum, soft and silent drum. You have 2 hammers on the machine, one on one side, one on the other side. And then the way you may write the proposal for the installation is just like music. So you have to define which note you are playing. So we choose just to use 2 notes, the 1.3 and the 1.7. They are not harmonic one of the other because this is a non-linear type of instrument. and you may define for how long you beat that note, so the duration of the note. You define the frequency, you define when. You may play with the phrase that will go from one instrument to the other, and then you have to define something else. You have to define the measure, the length of the musical measure of the score. And for that, what we have decided to do is to measure the transient of the tank. So we beat 3 times on one side, we stop, we wait for a particular delay, and we beat on the other side 3 times, and we measure when we got the largest response. So this is like a measure of the natural attack of the instrument. And the attack of the instrument was 475 seconds, and we have decided to make the measure of this musical score, the attack of the instrument. So you see that you have a new instrument, is silent to us, is particular as an instrument because usually for all the instrument the note will be about 40 hertz. The attack will be maybe 1/10 or about 1/10 of a second, a few beating of the note, and then the measure will be about a second. Whereas for this instrument, all the time scale are collapsed because the note, the attack, and the time scale of the score is the same. And I sent that to the composer, and he wrote right away the music, the electronic music that will go with this score. Because for him, he put that on Facebook first, and then for him it was clear. Now we knew the piece we have in front of us. They were just soft and silent drum. And this is a short movie on that. So there is 3 machines. We put mist on the top. After we play with distilled water. At the time we have no time to get distilled water, so there should be no bubble below. The fact that we put the mist on top will increase the materiality of the above layer. So it's a little as if we have inverted the gravity, because what seems massive, optically massive, is the upper layer. The lower layer is clear, and we have a play with the trio. So we construct a space with these 3 slices of an ocean or of a music with this beating wave, and we design the music. And the music, what was striking is that the public asked. So this music, it was also for Nuit Blanche. So we composed a music that was 10 minutes, 10 seconds. And the public stayed for much more than a season. So I forgot to say that I was writing music with machines that were producing waves. So I got the idea to write the 4 seasons. And because this is a free title. So this is the 4 season, and people stay for many seasons of this installation, and they camp. In the night, they camp in the installation, and the public came and asked exactly the same question. It came and asked the question. It's not the music that is driving the wave. It's not the wave that is driving the music. What it is, and for the first question, I start a long answer, and at some point, I just for fun, I say no, but it's not wave. It's just soft and silent drum. It's the time I invented this expression. But for the public, it was like a provocative answer. But for the public, it was clear. It was clear because if you think these are musical instruments, then for the music is not so often causal. So except maybe some modern music, but usually the music is not causal. It has been composed. So there is a dialogue composed by the human between all the instruments. So you cannot just imagine that the violin is leading or is provoking the cello. There is a dialogue, and of course, if there are a musical instrument, then the construction of the space was very clear. And what is funny is that just this answer saying that was answering all the questioning of the people that has been observing the installation for very long. So that was the first, maybe the first part of my talk. This is in a way a reclaim of the creativity, of the imagination, but also a proposal when we try to just propose to the public this space where all what we think maybe will be prescribed. But why is it so important? And I'm taking images from Yves that is here. I did my PhD with him, and I'm claiming the affiliation. For that is that we got, so this is not the end of the story. There is a point behind this idea that science is first creativity and the space to explore, is that this is very important for all the big questioning of the modern time. So all the issues that we are facing, like the climate change. And we have been commissioned by Cap Farewell, a British curator, to do with the artist AA, so this is the favorite image, to do an exhibit on art and climate change. And we looked for many ideas with them. I did a piece before with them that was an exploding nuclear plant. But we proposed that first as an idea to the exhibit in the Espace EDF in France, the Espace Electra, but for an unknown reason, EDF was not so keen as showing an exploding nuclear plant in the installation. So for us it was good, because then we have to create something else. So the first thing I thought was to go back to this idea of SAW film that are model of planetary flow, because they are 2D. And of course, some film, they have been mentioned before, but in the tradition, going back to the ancient Greek and then the Roman, this is homobula. So it's more than it's the fragility of the human life. So it's not just something naive or something fresh or something that will be the virginity. It's more the fragility, the fact that it may burst, it may be a representation of the soul, something we don't know, and it's known as homobula. So this is part of the emblema. So the emblema are engraved like that, where all the little things are, there is a message. So it's all a very coded type of drawing, where every little piece of this drawing has a signification. And after that, it's very known with the vanity, les vanités, where the bubble is also the same symbol of the fragility of the human life. So usually you have a skull and a bubble, and this is maybe the two polarity of the life, the fact that is fragile and maybe there is something more behind. And so the first idea was to go back to a SAW film installation, but SAW film installation are complex, so I did a movie that is called Terabula. So because maybe now it's not only the human life that is fragile, but the whole humanity that is fragile. So this is the same design, except that the light is below, except that the camera, they do not like sodium light because it's monochromatic, so they will give you a different color. But this was nice for the installation. But this was not a real installation. So the next idea, so we tried many things. They made proposal with ferrofluid and things like that, and nothing was making sense. And suddenly I thought back of this image of the Van Dyck album of in-motion book. And I called them, I said, okay, I got the idea for the installation. With Antoine Garcia, that is my partner in École Polytechnique, so the technician with whom, I rephrase, that is doing all the setting for me. We did that in something like half a day. So this is a rotating sphere inside the tank. We inject fluorescent dye at the pole. It will embrace the sphere in a very thin layer and then escape at the equator. And maybe in that we'll even reach the whole ether like that. So this is this installation that is called Planète Laboratoire. Planète Laboratoire is a French publication, Planète Laboratory, and it goes with this idea that we are right now using the planet as a laboratory to make the test. We just have the trouble that we have no spare planet to do the next experiment with.
Water?
So this is in water, yes. This is a water tank. The sphere is about this size, 15 centimeter. And the final installation, because I'm running a little short maybe on time, the final installation is this one with a setting, so it's really a planet inside a laboratory design. There is a little time sequence that you see for the public that will last a particular time. There is music, but not on the movie right now. And we emit this little flash, this little spot of fluorescent dye that will produce all the fascinating pattern that we all want to study to know all the dynamics. and it will escape at the equator. And the idea is that we change the water every morning. When it starts, the water is very clear, but the more you go during the day, the more the tank is polluted, and so it's this idea that maybe even this very fascinating pollution that has a very appealing look on this planet will, at the end of the day, even pollute the whole ether in the feeling. So this is one. I will finish on this one. So this is so for COP21, I did 20 single exhibition in Amsterdam, in France, in different countries. More than 20 talks also, just on art and science. And this is one of the installation. And this installation is called 2080, like a date in the future. And 2080, the installation is the line here. You see the metallic line. And on the metallic line, there is a laser that we have used. So a laser for the construction, a red laser that to put that line at 2080 millimeter from a reference point in the space here, so from the middle. And this 2080 millimeter, this is the amount of oxygen we have right now on the planet. If we in the atmosphere, if we imagine that we liquefied the atmosphere. So the atmosphere, you know, we have no feeling of the atmosphere. Depending on what type of science you are doing, you will have a different measurement of the atmosphere because it's nearly continuous to the solar wind. So there is no definition of the size of the atmosphere, but more than that, there is no feeling on. It's not tangible. What is the size of the atmosphere? But if you want to imagine something, you may imagine that we liquefy the atmosphere, and then we all know that this will be about 10 meters. We know that because the density of the air, liquid air, is about the same as the density of water. And when you dive, every 10 meters, there is the pressure increased by 1 atmosphere. So the liquid air on the Earth is a layer of 10 meters on the planet, so it's very thin. We have nearly 4 kilometers of water, but we have 10 meters of air. And in this 10 meters, we all know that there is about 20% of oxygen. There is about 2 meters of oxygen. And science is just starting to measure precisely that. The group in San Diego, they just started maybe 5 years ago to be able to measure the variation of the oxygen, the same way we will do here. So this installation is just a line like that with the laser. In the main hall, there is a blue laser that is materializing this layer for the public to be able to put his hand and measure the amount of oxygen we are leaving on or in the room. And this is not only that, this is a performance. So we did the performance here with 9 persons, 7 scientists, 2 artists. And the performance is we are all in black. We are carrying a black container with liquid nitrogen. And we have designed this copper cone like that, where we pour the liquid nitrogen. So you see that there is, you will freeze the water, so you will have ice forming, but the ice is wet at some point, and the ice is wet by the liquid oxygen because the ebullition, the evaporation point of the liquid nitrogen is below the one of the liquid oxygen, so you are condensing the oxygen in the room. So you are making tangible the oxygen. You may prove that this is oxygen because oxygen is paramagnetic, so you may move the droplet with a magnet. And the idea is that we have little Petri dish, or even people put their hand, and we are giving to the public a little droplet of oxygen, so something that belongs to all of us, that usually you never experience, you just breathe, and it's tangible in the hand, and it will just re-evaporate to the common room. And I will end on that because this is, you see, this is really an art and science installation. Maybe saying a lot on the connection with the planet, but where in a way there is very little scientific demonstration. There is no very scientific, something very impressive in science. But for example, all the people who experienced this installation, they keep speaking to me about this, the feeling they got in getting the little drop of oxygen in the hand and not being even capable of keeping it. Thank you.
Any questions?
I'm curious why in all your installations that include music, you use electronic music, which is a little mechanical, rather than dive into the enormous music literature there is out there for any instrument, including there are compositions for drums and percussion, if that's what you want, and so on. I think that would connect your art with the huge world out there.
So there is another version of the ring installation at a smaller scale, where it's all with percussion, mechanical percussion with wood that will make the sound. So it's not. It depends what is the installation, what is the proposal, with whom we are designing the setting. We have another one where it's a choreography of mist, and there is a cello player dialoguing with the mist choreography in a way. So there is and we have the last one we have is the one where we design analogic electronic devices to produce to connect the sound of an instrument called onde marteneau, that is like the theremin, but developed by the French. And it's really a real instrument where there is many modality of playing. There is only 30 people able to play of this instrument. There is something like 50 original instruments, and we connect one of these to one of the installation with designing instead of designing an electronic connection with the instrument, we design old style electronic, analogic connection. So it's really depend on the project and the way we want the project to be immersive.
Anybody else?
I'd like to address everybody on a particular subject because that's a question I want to ask. I come from Trinity College Dublin, and more than 10 years ago, I suppose, my colleagues founded something called the Science Gallery, which was to mix art and science. It was a very novel idea at the time. It has survived and in fact become Science Gallery International, a worldwide movement, doing things more or less in the style that you have adopted. And I'd just like to ask everybody, including yourself, which of you, if any, has a direct association with the Science Gallery movement? Perhaps you could answer first.
Yes, so I've been working with some of the artists that start also the Science Gallery with the people in Dublin, like Evelina Domnich and Dimitri Gelfand. They have many pieces over there. I'm still waiting for an invitation to put one of my pieces in this gallery. But I will be very pleased of participating. So it's more now, I've been connected to many artists that came to my place also and developed this art and science with me. And they are connected to art.
I have no direct association with it, so I'm asking from a neutral point of view. I'm curious. The moving spirit behind it was a wonderful man called Michael John Gorman, but he is now a professor of history of science in Germany. And I am not sure myself how successful the movement is at the moment. Can I ask if anybody else is associated directly or indirectly with the Science Gallery International? Anybody else? No? Thank you.
Oh, I should say at Berkeley we have a design center that's physics, math, biology, art, and it's the Jacob Center. It just started a year ago. But we're not part of that movement.
Yeah, well, of course, I mean, there are all kind of predecessors of this. The Exploratorium, which I visited in, 1960-something in San Francisco, is a wonderful example. But somehow this, under the genius of Michael John Gorman, this crystallized something important at that particular time. And for us, at least, it has survived very well.
Thank you. Let's thank our speaker again. And we have Professor Mimi Coyle from University of